Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. In this special edition, we're joined by the French Minister for Gender Equality, Elisabeth. Now, this has been an extraordinarily difficult year for any government as countries attempt to navigate their way through a global pandemic. One clear loser already has been women's rights, with the accompanying recession reinforcing already existing inequalities. So if there's ever been a time to be developing government policy that boosts the status of women, this is it. Minister, I want to thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. But before anything, I want to talk about your particular story. You were born on Cape Verde, an island nation off the west coast of Africa. Your family arrived here in France in the 1970s. You've had a highly successful and lengthy career in business and high tech. But I want to know, at which point did you realise you were a feminist?
Well, I think I became a feminist when I realized that women sometimes in some countries are considered less than a child. They are not able to do what they want to do. They cannot study what they want to study. They cannot work as they wish to work. And they are not considered as bringing the value to the society they are bringing in reality. So, last week I was working with an NGO who is trying to save women who are facing these difficult FGM. And I was thinking, how can a human remove a part of a woman body just to avoid that she has her own pleasure, or just to make sure that she get married properly? I don't understand this injustice. And I think that I really became a feminist when I realized that we had to save our own destiny. And I think that's exactly the journey I'm in now.
You're also a woman of colour. You also have a disability. So you've experienced discrimination on many levels, haven't you?
I have experienced every single discrimination you can imagine, And as you mentioned, disability, being a woman, being Black, and because I was an immigrant, because I have had a very tough life very early in my age, I learned to fight my own fears. And, you will never avoid people telling you that you're not right, that you shouldn't be where you are. You will always find people who are haters, people who are jealous, people who don't want you to succeed. But your life is yours. So you have to fight and have the life you want to have.
And that's where role models are very important.
Absolutely.
Minister, we're just going to have to take a pause there, because as soon as he came to power in 2017, President Emmanuel Macron made gender equality a major priority. But 4 years on, how much has been achieved or not? Catherine Keddare-Clifford reports.
Making for a picture-perfect cabinet, Emmanuel Macron's government is split 50-50 between the sexes. The president declared gender equality as the great cause of his term in office, yet critics say his cabinet's parity is a facade. Behind the scenes, the reality is very different across the layers of France's public sector, with only 32% of managerial or senior executive posts held by women. Last July, a cabinet reshuffle sparked outrage in the country. While the new government respects gender parity, a majority of key posts went to men. 2 appointments in particular were met with disbelief from women's rights activists. That of Gérald Darmanin, accused of rape as Interior Minister, and as Justice Minister Éric Dupond-Moretti, known for his stance against Me Too and for criticising the government's 2018 law against street harassment.
After making gender equality its great cause, the government is showing us the opposite in its actions.
Another of the government's great causes is the fight against domestic violence. At the end of 2019, following a national forum on violence against women, a budget of more than €1 billion was allocated to defending gender equality in 2020. But in the end, only half of this sum was made available. Despite widespread criticism, the government believes it has made hopeful progress in protecting women. According to the Ministry of Justice, the number of femicides has dropped in France, with 90 recorded in 2020, as opposed to 146 in 2019.
Now, watching that report with me in the studio is Elisabeth Moreno, the French Minister for Gender Equality. Minister, we heard in that report that despite a promise in 2019 of around €1 billion to promote gender equality, there's been questions have been asked, where has the money ended up and where has it been exactly allocated? What would you say to those women activists here in France who claim that the government is offering only words but not action?
I think I will tell them that never before we have spoken about gender violence as we've done. Never before, we started counting the number of women dying in domestic violence. In 2006, we had more than 120. In 2019, we had 146. And now, in 2020, we have counted 90 women who died in domestic violence. Even one woman dying under domestic violence is a lot. And I think the way we have spoken about this topic over the past 3 years is now paying. Is it fast enough? Probably not, because we are still seeing women dying. During 3 years, we have voted 3 laws to protect women against violence at home, in the streets. And we have also voted a law to support women and economic empowerment in the professional environment. So I think we have done a lot. Probably feminists will tell you, and that's their role, they will tell you that it's not enough. But no government has done as much as Emmanuel Macron's government has done regarding gender equality.
And of course, since then, we've had a global pandemic. We've seen a massive surge in domestic violence. And, this pandemic is threatening to roll back the decades of progress that have been made in women's rights. How difficult is it now for someone like yourself, particularly when all governments are in crisis mode, to get your colleagues to realise that now more than ever it is really important to craft policies that promote equality?
I'm doing what I know well. I'm managing them. Every 6 weeks, I have a meeting with every single minister, like Minister of Labour, Education, Health, and so on and so forth, so we can discuss all the actions that have been taken in favor of women to fight gender violence. And I can tell you that we are progressing fantastically well. And as you mentioned, this pandemic has been a terrible situation for women. Women make 70% of the care activities in our country. And they have had terrible moments in their lives, and they've been there each day, each night. And everybody knows today that we cannot do anything in this country without women.
What still needs to be done, though?
We still need to continue to push. We still need to fight against sexism. Because this very patriarchal society is made for men, by men, for men. Until we have women at the table so they can discuss their own situation, so they can make their own decision to fight against this injustice, we will not get there. And that's the reason why I'm trying to get women at every table, whether we speak about economics, about social activities, about health, about whatever it is. We need to have at least 50% of the voice at the table.
Now, France has been making international headlines recently following a wave of testimonies by victims of incest. The fact that this country still does not have an age of consent is still very shocking to many people living outside of France. Currently, there is a proposed bill before Parliament which would make sexual penetration of a person under the age of 15 by an adult a crime without the need to prove coercion or violence. So what exactly is your position?
In your family, when you're a child, when you are young, you should be protected, not violated or whatever it is. So my position has always been very clear. I think when an adult has sexual relation with a young person, which is 15 years old for us today, that's what has been announced recently by Éric Dupond-Moretti and Adrien Taquet, that's exactly what we need to do. we need to protect our youth. I was so emotional when I heard all these testimony. And I'm glad that this lady, Camille Kouchner, wrote that book. And I'm glad that it was somebody well-known. Because that person was well-known, because that person was recognized, it has exploded in our society, and everybody started talking about it, whilst every NGO I had met before was telling me, we know that we have a problem in our society because of this situation. So I'm glad that people are talking, and it's time to see the shame changing and going to the people who are harassing and not the victim.
Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's it for this edition. You can also connect with us via our Facebook page. That, of course, be France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. So until our next show, bye for now.